Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics, Known Classics. This is episode number 3492, Doubleshot number 3386. I got two Marvel trades. This first one's the last one, the other one's kind of a new trade series, kind of. I'll talk about that in a minute after I talk about this one. First we have is Eddie Brock Carnage, Volume 2. The Killing Muse. Which, a little weird fun fact, once this book ended, Muse was not seen again after this book wrapped up. Yeah, it was just completely random. He just appears in this book. So, written by Charles Shaw, art by Jesus Sanchez. It pretty much has all the issues except for issue 9. That is done by Juan Ramirez. So, basically a lot of this book is where we see this mysterious woman whose name, we later find out her name is Melinda, and Eddie is seeing visions of her throughout this whole book. And we see that Carnage has killed some animals. I'm not going to show it because it's kind of gross. Which include a bear, a deer, a raccoon, a bird, actually 2 birds, a snake. Of course, Carnage is taunting him. And then, of course, Muse pays visit his art store. He's like, well, hello. Hey, come on, I want to trouble. No, I'm here just for art supplies. As art supplies, he sees people, and he does the usual thing. Drains their blood, because that's what Muse does. Yes. So, after Eddie talks to Carnage, and yeah, of course he flatlines, so he does break out of the ambulance. After he gets out, of course he paints on the walls like, have you seen this man? Like, oh yeah, that's Eddie Brock. He was there, but he since left. Then of course, Carnage is taunting him with various different stuff, like, yeah. And then, of course, we see at Frisbee Creek where it looks like Eddie buys a car. And of course, basically, instead of, sign paperwork over the fact he bought this car, basically Eddie just gives him 10 grand in cash and just pretend he wasn't there. The car was never there. And after the negotiator just buys the cash. You're like, okay. Well, that was a quick negotiation. I'm sure basically he has paperwork. So then, of course, there's you have Muse driving with blood in the car. The boy sees his paint. He wonders, where is Eddie Brock? And then, of course, basically, this Eddie sees, oh yeah, calls Carnage a disease. So Carnage kills him. Oh, don't worry, he's not dead. It's just a dream. So he, of course, is looking for him, and then he meets up with Melinda at the end of issue number 8. He mentions, oh yeah, he sees where she is yeah, remembers her. Yeah, apparently this woman had a symbiote called Freedom, which then she wanted to lead the symbiote. Of course, she politely did, and the symbiote later died. And mentions, oh yeah, he was a King in Black, but he since lost it. That's thanks to Venom War. Lets him a cage with, and of course, yeah, that was him. And they chat for quite a while, and then Muse shows up. Yes, Muse does show up. And of course, he says, hello, may I speak to Eddie Brock? He's very polite. Yep. Oh, by the way, he does kill Melinda. Yeah, I think he does. And of course, you have Muse fighting Carnage, which is interesting. Yeah. Carnage, who's, actually, Clea's supposed to be a serial killer. Carnage is freaking crazy. And, yeah, and the fact he tried to poison him. And then you have Carnage versus Muse. I'm like, that's an interesting duo. He takes the drug and sort of really steals him. It's like almost, and it's like, got you. I knew it'd get you eventually. It's like it's like Carnage locks up Eddie's mind, and then he proceeds to open his head, pops a book, and he says, "Huh, Peter Parker. How about that?" Yeah, this actually is not the first time Carnage found when Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Apparently found out, actually, in Amazing Spider-Man 797. Yeah, it's like, I think Charles Shaw forgot that. But, very interesting relation. Now, I have heard, so this book, I'm going to give the book a 9 out of 10. So, basically, the book was canceled due to low sales. That was primarily the reason why. It was due to the fact Marvel just didn't care to promote it. It just wasn't a very big seller. And I think also because people just wanted it back with Venom, not Carnage. That's primarily the reason why. And plus, lucky enough, Charles Shaw has stated that the ending of this book leads into Spiral, which is publishing right now. And I'm not going to spoil what happens there. And my friend Tivia basically has spoiled it, but I'm not going to spoil myself because I need to catch up with it. But this was a very interesting book per se. It's like we have one major death we have here. That's Bushwhacker. Yep, Bushwhacker is killed up by issue 3. Like, okay. But this book ends. That is the last we see of Muse, because he's appeared since then. Now, the whole thing with Muse, Charles Shaw writing again, I may have been indirectly responsible for him doing that. I say indirectly. Because the only reason Muse, I think, was brought back for this book, purely because he was a featured villain on Daredevil Born Again. I did tweet this to Charles Shaw how I felt about it. He apparently had no idea that Muse was on Daredevil, the Daredevil TV show. He had no idea about that. So, I may have been the one indirectly responsible for having Charles Shaw write the character again. That's just my theory. Yeah. Now, the guy originally died by being burned in a building, and he was brought back in a Daredevil Woman After miniseries, and he popped up in Cold Day in Hell, and now he pops up in this book. So it's like, recurring villain for Daredevil, dies, gets sort of brought back in 2 miniseries, and pops up here in this ongoing. I mean, the only reason why he appears in the book because Charles Shaw created him. And it's been implied Muse is a human, but that was never proven. That was just a theory that he was a inhuman, but they never proved it. Yeah. Now, the character Muse only popped up, I think it was roughly like 9 years ago he popped up. Yeah. But this book overall was really good. I enjoyed it. Next up, now you probably think of this book like, really? If you're in this book? You haven't finished reading the other volume yet. Well, I'm going to get that tomorrow. So, we have the first trade of the relaunch of Fantastic Four, Save Everyone, which collects Fantastic Four. I believe this is volume number 8, I think it is. Issues 1 through 5, and the Free Comic Day Fantastic Four / Giant Size X-Men. Written by Ryan North. Art by Alberto Ramos. Now, when initially this was relaunched, number 1, a lot of people felt this there was no reason to do this at all. I have had my theory. The reason this one actually has a reason for the relaunch, and you might think, is that really the reason for the relaunch after only 31 issues? Yes. So the reason for the relaunch of this Fantastic Four volume was because of Fantastic Four First Steps. Yep, that's simply the reason for it. And there was a mistaken belief, thanks to trailers, that was implied that Susan Richards was the leader of Fantastic Four, despite the fact in the comics I wasn't read. And if you watch the movie, no, that is completely false narrative. If anybody believes the fact that Sue Storm was leader of the Fantastic Four in First Steps, you're a liar. Trailers are meant to be misleading. They're not meant to prove the fact, yes, this is what's going to happen in the movie, because the movie may change something before the movie comes out. A big case in point, if you've ever seen the trailers for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, there was a scene where you saw Gamora's back, where she was literally topless in the trailers, and you're like, why didn't we see the movie? Apparently it was cut, from what I've heard. But this book does have like one issue tied to Wonder Woman Under Doom, and a lot of people, if you read this book flow-wise, it didn't really need a relaunch because you have the movie. Just, my guess is probably also the reason why they couldn't just launch another Fantastic Four book when they were doing this book coming out. My guess is the reason for it is probably because they need new number one. I know that the recurring joke for the past, since like 2012, that Marvel is obsessed with the number one, because I think, we make all our money with my number one, just don't care about one of the rest. So here's what happened. So in the opening issue, we just had Fantastic Four just fighting, I think it's the Kree, I think it is. And then they all get separated across time. So you have Johnny in the era of volcanoes. You have the Thing fighting a dinosaur, like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, Thing fights dinosaur. Reed, of course, ends up in medieval times. Yep. Mostly ends up in Dark Ages. He just found out where those two are. And then Sue is in the future. Yep, she's in the future. And the whole thing is basically trying to get the team back together. It lasts the first 2 issues of this book. It's a quick 2-parter. Of course, also this opening issue, accused of Sue Storm being a girl boss. She barely appears in issue 1, so I don't buy her being a girl boss. Nope, not really. Of course, Reed and Sue back together, and then becomes the Wonder Woman Doom stuff, where Fantastic Four deal with Doctor Doom throughout this issue. And the following issue. It's mostly, if you read this book alongside Wonder Woman Doom, this book feels like basically like a really good companion piece to it. Similar in case with Daredevil and Shadowland. I would say probably another one is probably Civil War 2 with Iron Man and Uncanny Humans. Also, read the summary he did before. He basically has his eyes stretched now, which is weird. And they're testing cold, and basically they're trying to deal with Doctor Doom here. They're just, like, doing that here, and of course you have Doom. And after 2 issues of Wonder Woman Doom, yeah, that's all done. Yep, after 2 issues, we move on to Wonder Woman Doom, probably because the event wrapped up. Now, this is the first and only time I have ever seen it where you have a book tied into a crossover, gets relaunched, have 2 more issues of the book tied into crossover, and then we're done. I've never read it before. So this is issue number 4, and the whole issue is focused on Alicia Masters, Ben Grimm's wife. And of course, you have Alicia talking to Reed. This really weird fashion. Really weird conversation they have. Yeah, and also you have a scene where you have the Thing share a bed with Alicia Masters because, they're husband and wife. Yeah, Reed tries to solve some problems. And then, of course, this also is Ghostbusters tie-in because it feels like stuff we saw in the second movie. I think it was the first Legacy movie. So in the penultimate issue, we have Felicia Hardy pop up here, and of course she's framed murder. Superstar finds the murderer, and the murder was arranged by the kingpin of crime. Mentioning this family was mentioned in issue number 6. So in the case of the next issues, like, yeah, kind of do this little telegram thing with the creature stuff, and of course they go niggas on fishing, and that's it. Really interesting set of issues overall. I give the book roughly a 9 out of 10. Okay, so that's pretty much it for today's video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe to notifications. Next up, we have a couple anime videos, and I'm going to rest my voice for a bit, and then I'll do my 2 videos, okay? Thanks, you. Bye.